So after everything you heard from last time, I bet you're wondering, why would I let such a terrible player be a DM? Well, in interest of putting enough material for my psych evaluation on the internet in a few years' time when the murders begin, I thought I'd share that story with you right now. So our group was entering its second year, and ever since session 1, Warlock had been asking me, none too subtly, how long my game was going to last, and when I would be letting someone else DM. I told her several times I had several fairly long games planned for the group, until everyone in the group understood the rules well enough that I could hand over the reins. I explained that this was not a decision to be taken lightly, as a bad DM could lose us players. But she had already stopped listening by that point. I had already told her everything that she wanted to know. So the games went on, and every session she dropped some hint or another, with all the discretion and care of a B2 flying fortress, about how she thought everyone understood the rules pretty well by now, or how excited she was to run her own campaign, or how much work she was putting into it. Eventually, she wore me down, and now, heartily sick of everything about her, and might end up doing something drastic if she made one more reference to illegally downloading the Dungeon Master Guide, I let her DM a game. Things started badly, and thinking back, those words might as well be the tagline for everything. In order to judge her quality as a DM, I had her run a one-shot with the whole group. Unfortunately, due to personal reasons, I had to abscond from attending at the last minute. But I did grill the other players thoroughly for information. And one thing I noticed right off the bat was that they all said it was good. None of them would tell me why, and their smiles seemed oddly fixed as they did so. So I went deeper, and by that, I mean I banged 2 of the players' heads together until they started making squishing noises, and then asked them nicely again. And that was when I saw the speeding train fast approaching the railway line I was now tied to. Warlock, in this analogy, the snidely whiplash twirling his mustache by the side of the rail, had basically focused the entire thing around a copy-paste of a character from an anime. I forget which one. It was an old dragon king who the players were trying to kill for some reason or another. Apparently Warlock ranted for 5 minutes about how good and nice this dragon is and how amazing he had made everything, and then acted surprised when the party didn't want to immediately accept a contract on his life from one shadowy dude in the sewer based on nothing more than, he'll pay you lots of money. Eventually, she hand-wavedly railroaded them with a, anyway, you all accept this contract and are now on your way to kill the dragon. Then they had some combat, which apparently was a nightmare because she described every enemy the exact same way. There's some masked dude, they're wearing robes. So gauging a threat from any individual enemy was impossible when it could have been the boss of all religions anywhere ever, who was apparently identical in every way to Derek, the unpaid understudy who lost his girlfriend this morning and isn't just feeling it today, you guys. Another weird thing was that all the enemies' reasons for wanting to kill them essentially boiled down to things the NPC tagalongs had done, not the players. So not only are the party being railroaded, they're still playing second fiddle to a bunch of all-black edgelords who are apparently and probably DM NPCs based on how she kept banging on about how great they were. Then they got to the dragon itself, and this is where things start to get weird. One of the players, a halfling bard, ends up snooing the dragon to death. From here, the story splits into 2 diverging paths based on who is telling it, and while I know which one I believe, neither side has ever relented and admitted which is true. Warlock and Cleric both insist that the player's decision was a complete shock to both of them and ruined the final boss encounter Warlock had planned, but she let him do it anyway because she believes in player choice and the sanctity of the game, and what was that about the beginning of the session? Never heard of it, etc, etc. But the other players, including the bard himself, tells a very different story. According to them, Warlock had been pressuring Bard to sleep with things more during the quest because that's what bards do. Eventually, after foolishly ignoring the third raving cultist, she decided to implement a new system where he had to roll wisdom saving throws every time he met someone to repress the urges that he didn't have. She also mentioned, I estimate about 9 billion times that the dragons in her world can literally have fatal heart attacks and die if they had a good enough time. And every time she said that, she would be quiet for a few seconds, as if waiting for the other players to realize something. As the players entered the boss arena, she spent a long time describing to the dragon specialist in the party, who hadn't asked and did not want to know, that the dragon was in heat and would literally sleep with anything that moved. In the end, she had the bard roll his wisdom saving throw for the dragon, and apparently a 22 wasn't enough to save, so he slept with her till she died. In that case, it sounds more like a planned ending that she was trying to pass off as player choice. As I said before, I can't prove either one or the other, so let me say this and we can move on. The party was level 5. Whatever the ending was planning to be, it wasn't for them to fight an ancient gold dragon. Anyway, the first campaign soon begins, and more problems start emerging. She decides for her first ever game to run it in her own world. Alright, a bit ambitious, but let's see where this goes. Then she waits until all the players have made their characters before sending everyone the lore, and there was a lot to unpack. First of all, only one player had picked human, and it was a player whom she had a vendetta with, since he was the one who called her out whenever she did something particularly uncomfortable or inappropriate in game. So, in her world, humans were basically created as a mistake by the gods and pretty much messed up the entire world because humans is bad. Like all of them, to a face, literally. Meanwhile, the race her best friend Cleric picked, I think it was Simic Hybrid, one of those playtest races D&D Beyond puts out every once in a while taking a break from eating all the money in the world, were basically created by the gods to be all-powerful mortal encapsulations of divinity. They had a bunch of powers and special effects that no other race got, including the ability to come back from the dead up to 3 times with no penalty or cost. Just to reiterate, nobody else got powers based on their race except Cleric. And to be clear, nobody had access to this backstory until the day before the first session, where they weren't allowed to change their characters anymore. When the campaign began, the favoritism got worse. Cleric soon discovered that she could get away with basically anything, so she would sit there in silence, rolling a d20 over and over again. Then, as soon as it rolled high, she would announce that she was stealing from another member of the group, and Warlock would always allow it. No contested check or anything. And you couldn't get back whatever it was she stole from you. Oh no, it's hers, forever now. So she always had the best magic items, and the most gold, and the plot important MacGuffins, and believe me, there were a lot of those. The worst part is whenever someone else tried to steal from her, or an NPC, suddenly they had to make the check after declaring it. Then they had to have a higher passive perception than their target. Then the target got both a dex check and a wisdom saving throw to protect their stuff, all of which mysteriously vanished the moment the cleric rolled high again. And it wasn't just the mechanics. World, lore, gameplay, and skills that were tilted in her favor either. One session, I left the table for maybe 2 minutes to take a whiz. When I came back, suddenly it was super important for all of us to help Cleric become the head of the Thieves Guild, which apparently controls every thief in the entire world, with no challenge to its power at all. Why should we care?
Because they have a magic item that you can take if she runs it.
But we have all magic items by this point, and she has most of them anyway.
Well, you already decided to do it now, so too bad.
So after months of fetch questing and doing jobs that basically always involved Cleric making one stealth check, followed by another if she rolled low, repeated until she succeeded, and followed with 3 hours of them talking about it while we sat around picking the table fluff, she finally became the leader of all the thieves in the entire world, a job that was remarkably easy to do and that didn't stop her from abandoning her guild for years at a time to do quests. At this point, I expressed my fears to Warlock in the hopes that she would get better, and she assured me that she has quests centered around all our characters coming up. So with a little more open-mindedness, we arrive at my Cavalier Fighter's quest, and it was, brace yourselves, go and clear out a hobgoblin fortress with something like 9 or 10 hobgoblins in it. Yes, I'm being serious. So we clear the fort in like half a session, thinking that this is just the opening plot hook or something, and then she asked me if I enjoyed my personal quest, and moved on to the next one. Wait, what? That was it? Cleric got months of content all about taking over Assassin's Guild, and I get one fortress that I don't even get to keep afterwards? So the campaign was one uninteresting slog from one railroad to the next, all of them so shamelessly ripping off anime and League of Legends character lore, that in the end, I could just message my anime watching friends after every session and he would flawlessly predict each upcoming twist or mission without even being in the game. But the worst part of this saga is yet to come. If life were a campaign, then our group would be unconscious, down 2 death saves, and with no friends in sight. Here's how Warlock stomped on its face until it died. So at this point we were all visibly unengaged. Even Cleric, who was just coming around to the realization that being 10 times better than the rest of the party doesn't exactly make for very interesting gameplay. But nobody could have predicted what Warlock would do next. One day, the Discord chat blings with a new alert. It's Warlock, saying she feels nobody is enjoying the campaign. No doy. And that in the interest of everyone, she feels it would be best to cancel the game. No doy. And the entire group in general. Wait, what? Much doy, much doy. Yes, she basically decided on my behalf to cancel the entire group because nobody was enjoying her game. Apparently she thought being the DM made her the leader of the group and gave her the right to make the executive decision of capping the entire business in the head and burying it in a shallow grave in the woods. At the time, it was such a shock that nobody could even process it enough to argue, and the Discord chat was deleted so fast most players didn't even have a chance to read the message itself. So nobody made any attempt to salvage the pieces, and the mighty self-destructive Warlock marked the end of 2 years of gaming. So that's how it ended. I never played with Warlock again, and the group never reformed. However, there is a silver lining. Today, I have a new group full of wonderful people, and plans are underway to start a second. I still play with the members of the old group, and have since introduced many new players to the game. Warlock, meanwhile, tried to get another group going, couldn't find any players, and eventually lost her passion for the game entirely. If one could imagine this as a battle between me and her, which I think one conceivably could, it's pretty clear who won. My only regret is that Cleric completely lost her taste for tabletop gaming and never went back to them. Their potential for her crushed under a landslide of problems she was too inexperienced to realize were all Warlock's fault. What a mess. Again, OP let Warlock run the game for a bit too long and made some mistakes. I'm glad that there was a happy-ish ending, but still so much red. Don't let others pressure you and trust your gut. What do you all think about the situation now?